Hello, good morning to Awakening.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Sandy Archer, and you are.
Well, the last time I remember it was Bob Scott. Unless something happened to me and I've been living, in a state of delusion.
And something happened to you. You were missing. You were MIA.
Well, you and some of the people in our community, you guys get all the hip and trendy diseases like COVID. Me, I get the old-fashioned flu. It's like,
oh no,
I get
you
those
had the
old,
old-fashioned.
those old ones.
You mean by age? We just No,
I'm just not cool like you guys to get the modern, like hip and trendy things.
I'm so sorry that you were sick. I'm so glad to see you back, though.
Yeah, well, we'll see how my voice holds out. I'm still a bit raspy.
Oh no, that's terrible.
My sinuses are still a little bit of a mess, but other than that, I'm still here.
Well, I'm glad you are. We missed you. Mugs up. Good morning, everyone. Who's here?
It's Monday. It's sunny out here in Kansas City.
Yes. Do we know what? Well, it's kind of cold out there right now, though. It's only 34.
It's gonna warm up, but I'm gonna go back out today. I've missed all this. It's kind of funny when you're like celebrating the fact that it's 50 degrees. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yay, 50. I know. We knew it would feel like summer.
But
so, hey, hi, Heather.
The whole idea of relativity, at one point, it's like, oh, if we could, 70 is really that, or some people it's 80, and here we are after having sub-freezing temperatures, thrilled to get to 50. I mean,
well, it's going to be 52 today, but it's going to be, it's going to be 64 on Wednesday.
That's what I mean. It's like, here we are, suddenly, it's typical. For those of you who aren't from this area, given the fact that Kansas City's smack dab in the middle of the United States, and if you know your Civil War history, we have here what's called the Border War, which goes east to west, Kansas, Missouri. But we have a weather war between the Canadian Northern Air and the Southern Gulf Air. And it's crazy because sometimes we're caught right in the middle of this battle between these two fronts. So it could be sub-zero freezing temperatures, and then a week later it's 50 or 60 degrees,
I love it.
So it can get real extreme. So we all have a bit of schizophrenia when it comes to our wardrobe, because it's like, wait a minute, do I put my shorts on and t-shirt, or do I put my sweater and long underwear
you can't
on?
Put your clothes away. You don't put your clothes away here. That's not how that works. So good morning, Amy. Thanks for listening. Who else is here? Say hello if you're here. I see there's some people here. So good morning. So okay, I know you haven't been on with us. So anything else going on? Worldwide?
Oh man.
Worldview.
You want to go there right away?
No.
Huh?
Oh no, not really.
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts about all that stuff, but that's like, you're like, want me to go start drilling down into all the issues first thing on Monday morning. So,
oh my goodness, I don't even know. I mean, now we're in the middle of this weird. Okay, we didn't think it could get weirder, right? Well, we were wrong. So, as it gets weirder, now that people have gotten vaccines and everything. We thought, oh, okay, great. Everything's going to
change.
And guess what? It hasn't.
No.
You know why?
Why is that?
Because our leaders are still telling us we have to do the same things we were doing before we got the vaccine. Why? I want to know why. That's ridiculous. Why would you create a vaccine that doesn't do anything? To change the thing.
You really do want to start.
Because it's on my mind.
It's bugging you. I know. I can see it.
Because
gotten under your skin.
Yes. Oh, hi.
Yeah.
Hello.
John and Jean. And John are dear friends of mine from Bella Vista. They were my neighbors down there. They are the most precious people. John was the former fire chief for Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and
right, go fire chief,
an alderman. So yeah,
awesome. Yeah, look at Heather's going, oh, Sandy, it's too early. It is, but I am nagged about it. I don't know. I'm very nagged about it. I mean, and then all these other changes are coming about, and it's kind of like, oh, I don't understand. I'm confused.
Well, I don't think
I'm not confused. Okay, I'm going to say I'm confused. I'm confused, but I'm kind of not confused. But I'm irked.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I want to get into drill down on all the specifics, but I will say this, that in my humble opinion, as a culture, we are in a crisis of trust.
Yes.
Which is not good.
No.
Because trust is what you've got to, I mean, trust is really the first threshold you've got to cross to have a relationship, right?
Yes.
Whether that be in a friendship, whether that be in a marriage, whether that be in a church, whatever. In other words, people, oneness, cohesion, a sense of belonging are all predicated on trust, because once that's been broken, the relationship gets broken, right?
Yes.
Well, suddenly now we're in that frame of mind on a national and international level.
Yes.
And the reason being is because the people that we've elected into positions of power, some elected, some appointed, aren't consistent in their message.
No.
So I was pointing this out. I don't know if I mentioned it on the show a couple of weeks ago. I don't know in my lifetime that I've ever been in a time period where there's more hypocrisy, duplicity, double standards. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's unbelievable.
I wonder if there always was some of that and it was hidden. But now that the media and social media, so everything is so instantaneous that now we're seeing it quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And I think,
well,
I think it was always there.
An excellent question, because is it more, are we discovering that there's more there than we ever realized? I tend to, and I don't know quite the answer to that, but I will say this, that what social media does is it creates more opportunity for facade.
Oh yeah.
Right. In other words, because social media is just two-dimensional.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
And anybody can say whatever they want. They can share a video that seems credible. They can put their own little, blurb on it and say, well, I support this and this is why you should. And so we've become agents and advertisers of our own selves. Yeah. We've become this thing. Of course, it's a trendy thing right now for your business, your personal branding.
Right.
Well, sometimes your personal branding is all of the things that you are creating to believe about what's going on outside your four walls.
Right.
And with the leaders and with, everything else. I mean, you can create a whole different planet for yourself. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. Well,
because of this.
May have told you this story, but and I don't know if I hope I'm not repeating myself, but a number of years ago, I was sitting in a hot tub in Phoenix with a friend of mine who was in the mergers and acquisition business.
Uh-huh.
And it was like 1 a.m. We were just having a really heart-to-heart conversation, and he says to me out of the clear blue, it's all a perception game. He goes, if I can go out there and create the impression that something is something, it becomes something.
Exactly. Right.
But he goes, exactly. It's a perception game. There's no reality to it.
There's no reality. Right. But if you can catch my vision, then we're on, then we can make that a reality. Right. So, hi, good morning, Michael. Good morning, Desma, Jeffrey. All of our peeps are here. Hello.
Yeah, thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, so I decided to tackle some stuff really quick, you guys that just joined.
Yeah, Sandy's already like gone there. Like
I did it. I just want you to know.
And we kind of do light and fluffy on Monday. We have our coffee and we just kind of check in with each other's state of our souls and all this stuff. And Sandy, like this morning, let's go straight to some issues. So I can tell. So that always
see how I missed you, Bob. See, I missed you.
I know. It's like you've been percolating. Like it's right. It's like you're percolating, and it's like, okay, I'm ready to, I'm ready to go.
Yesterday, the day before yesterday, I was in a funk mood, and so I'm been funkified.
Yeah.
So yesterday I had
a lot
to change
of people
it.
Right now, it's.
I was in a terrible funk.
It's an interesting time because you know how we've talked about, relationships. And you have your immediate family, your biological or your immediate family, and some of those have had dysfunctional problems, but by and large, that's your core, right? And then you have your friends, you know what I mean, people that you consider your friends, and then you have your might call your colleagues, your work colleagues, where we. And then outside of that, you sort of have your peripheral friend, right? And what COVID has done is basically eaten away at all of those circles, right?
Yeah.
So it's like our extended social world is basically eroded. And where are we back to? We're back to almost, it's just your family and maybe one or two really close friends. Now that's not all bad, but at the same time, what's driving all of that? And what it is self-preservation.
Yeah.
Like people right now don't know who to trust.
No, that Heather said that earlier too. And hey, good morning, Rick. Yes, sometimes it's okay to feel funky. I hear you saying that, Rick. I don't know. He's a musician. He says he's
well again, I mean, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse here.
Don't beat it.
I tried to warn everybody last year. We've the writer Paul, the first century rabbi, talked about in the end times, as we get closer and closer to the wrap up of civilization, that men would become lovers of self.
Yeah.
Right. And
some people don't believe in that wrap up.
I have witnessed that. Like I can't believe how quickly we've switched from the priority was our community, right? We saw our value in our service to others, our community. The older generations were willing to go to war to defend the rest of their communities, to now it's every man for themselves. You know what I mean? And so we've reached this epidemic stage of narcissism where it's self everywhere. And I have to be honest, I struggle. I struggle sometimes because, you were just talking about self-branding, and part of me cringes, right?
Yes.
About it all, because I understand what they're trying to say, but at the same time, it's built on a whole lot of I think, misguided priorities. Used to be the priority was your product or your service.
Right.
Now we're selling ourselves. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm part of this really cool group where there's a tribe, I guess you would say, that is like that. They do believe in values, and they do believe sharing the values along with their branding. And that's who I align with. I'm not going to align with those people out there. I don't know if you've jumped on the Clubhouse thing. I sent you that link to the Clubhouse.
I haven't had the courage to venture into that yet.
It's really an interesting thing. And it's grown, of course, Elon Musk was on there, Kanye West. Let's see who else. There, some big named people now are going into these rooms, and what it is people have felt so disconnected. They need to feel connected, right? So now this is an app that you can talk into. So that means like our audience. And I know Michael and I talk about this because, he's like, well, we should have a Zoom where all of our audience members can talk also and ask questions at, real time. And, and people are longing for that. So right. I would like to do that with our show one time. That'd be cool to have a full Zoom, time. That would be fun. But Clubhouse, that's what it's like. And right. people, the thing is that it's already taken this turn, this turn. And when I say that, and that's my own opinion, is that yes, I think it's good to sit and listen to leaders and successful people that are entrepreneurs and giving you their tips and how to do your Instagram, how do you, all of these people. But, if you go in there, you can get overwhelmed. So you really got to be careful and pick your time and time management onto what you're going to listen to and who you're going to listen to. And they've had to kick people off. There's moderators that can mute people as they're talking. I mean, it's created this other weird little community, because you're talking about community. So right. they have really amped this up to be a community. It's called Clubhouse, like a clubhouse. So, what it is people really want to talk. They really want to, they want to be heard during this time. And and some are really good and want to share. They want to share their success and how they got there and to give, because they didn't write a book, because they didn't, this is a good platform for them, to kind of do that. So I don't think it's a terrible bad thing, but I think, some of the people I hear stay up all night long listening to it. And I mean, it's really, taking their time.
Well, we're in a dilemma, and we've also discussed this before. Is that God, in the DNA of creation, made us relational, right? In other words,
people are. I mean,
the reason a man and a woman come together and they create a family. I mean, it's not just some sort of a spiritual phenomena. I mean, there's physicality involved. There's our body, soul, and spirits are fully engaged in the creating of a family and relationships, right? So it's to be human is to be in relationship, right? Yes. Now what's happening to us is we have leaders who have a worldview, right? That in order to save humanity, we should not be relational. Yeah. Right. And so what's happening is you've got, and there's politics involved in this. There's some other things involved in it. Yes. And it's waging war, right? If you want to kind of get more dramatic, it's waging war against the essence of who we are. And that's why people are rebelling right now. That's why people are just going, wait a minute, right?
That's why they want to go to Mars.
This was really interesting to me. Yes. And I'm going to probably get myself in trouble going here, but it is fascinating.
Who are you going to get in trouble with? That's what I want to know.
Oh, it's maybe some of our listeners.
Oh, no.
So someone had posted a little meme about capitalism and cutting down trees. And I responded back about how actually capitalism is after you cut down the trees, you replant them, because you want to have in 25 years, you want to have another. Anyways, we got into this whole discussion, but it was predicated on the fact that this person knew the facts. Well, then I posted an article about the facts that the reality of it is nobody actually really knows the truth about deforestation. And replenishment, because we actually don't have any facts. What we have is perceptions, right? We see people cutting down trees in the Amazon, and everybody gets hysterical about it, but nobody talks about the fact that all these lumber companies and everywhere else in the world, when you leave land alone, it replenishes itself and it regrows tree, right? So anyways, so we're having this little dialogue, and then the person says, and this was interesting, well, it doesn't really matter what the facts are. We just need to assume the worst case scenario.
Oh my gosh. Doesn't matter what the facts are.
Right. We just need to err on the side of the worst case scenario. Right. And then I realized, oh my gosh, this is a worldview, right?
Yes.
And we use the cliche statement, glass half empty, glass half full, right?
Yes.
And I started thinking, in some ways, that's really what's clashing right now, right? Because you have a whole group of people who are glass half empty. The sky's falling. It's worst case scenario. We have to go to the most extreme, because if we don't, it's the end of humanity. There's like a hysteria involved in it, right? There's another whole group of people that are going, no, we have a problem, but it's, and their response to it is exactly opposite. So the reason I bring this up is some of what's at the root of this is human nature.
Right.
It's just people, right? Pessimist, optimist, right?
Yes.
People that, your sales and your hard driving people that step on the gas, and your defensive, accountants and lawyers who keep putting on the brake, right? So, I mean, what we're dealing with culturally isn't anything new.
No, it's still the same dynamic. It's still the same
opposing.
But
it was really interesting because it was brought back to me that there's a whole part of our population that thinks we have, let's freak out at the worst possible scenario. That's their starting point.
Right. And they're willing to back people. Okay, so
that's what we call
we tackled COVID.
But that's
what about climate change? Climate change. Okay.
So you see what I mean? The clashing worldviews.
Yes, my worldview. Here's my problem with climate change. If I believe that there's a God that creates and maintains that, or he's the one that kind of, makes that happen, I don't know why I'm worried about climate change, I guess. I'm like,
as I have my discussions with all the climate change people, I said,
I'm really
actually basic. No, but I said, I think you're confused. Because I said, all of your message is all about saving the planet.
Yeah.
I go, but that's actually not the problem, because the truth of the matter is the planet is far more powerful than humanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not the planet that's the problem. If humans, you know what I mean, don't nurture and take care of it, the planet will reject humanity.
Right.
The planet's fine.
Hey, good morning, Kathy. Good morning. Thanks, Larry. Larry says, if you don't cut the trees down over time, they will fall on your house or fence. Then what do you do with that? Well, I say cut the tree.
Well, it's the same problem,
Trim the tree, but we're not. But our houses and fences aren't supposed to be there. The forest doesn't know that.
So how many of you have driven out through Colorado in the last few years? Because what you'll see when you get out there is whole mountainsides of dead trees.
Yeah.
Because of a beetle.
Right.
Like, beetle did more damage than humans did.
Yeah, true.
Right. But nobody, it's like, we're not we're not attacking the beetle. We attack humans. No, but you see, my point here is that nature is far more powerful than humanity.
Right. Right.
We're like a little
ant,
I
can't. I mean,
so the planet's fine. The planet, if something gets out of whack, the planet always adjusts.
Yes.
It's humans that have the problem.
What's the next controversial thing we can talk about?
I know. Well, you're like pulling them all out of the hat on Monday morning. Like
coronavirus.
I've been lying sick for a week. And you
I know.
Thing out of the chute.
Hey, I missed you. I missed you, Bob. I didn't get to like tackle any of these things. I had to be Pollyanna for a little while. So now, anyway, so Desma, cop out. They don't want to know the truth. Well, the climate is getting old, so is the trees.
but the climate keeps
it will regenerate.
Yes, that's what people forget. God created it in a way that it constantly regenerates.
Right. If you believe it. Oh, if you believe in evolution. But if you don't believe in evolution.
No, but I mean, that's not even evolution. That's just the fact of life and death.
Evolution. Well, right. Evolution is that it will come back and
evolution. Yeah, evolution though is
tree
basically
that's bigger. It'll turn into a bigger tree.
Evolution is basically the superiority of species. The strongest survive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there is no. I mean, the problem with the problem you run into with evolution, there is no justice. The concept of evolution eliminates justice, fairness, equality. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's ironic because some of the people that are the biggest proponents of all those things are evolutionists, and you're going, well, if you're an evolutionist, then fairness, equality, all those things are irrelevant. It's about power.
Hello. Hey, there's the key. If you're gonna sound clip anything, that was it right there.
There you go.
There you go. So Jeff, yeah. If a tree falls in the forest, nobody to hear it, does it make a sound? Yes, I think it does. I think the squirrels might hear it. Don't you think the animals hear it? I've always thought that was a really weird question.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
But I just, getting back to.
Oh my gosh, Jeff, we're not going with that. Thank you. No. How about no? We're not going into any gender things today. That's not where we're going.
I think it's important to understand that a lot of what we're seeing manifest isn't new. I mean, the issues may be new, but how humans respond to the issues is the same thing that's always been. You have the optimist and the pessimist. You have people that look at a situation and they swing out to the worst possible scenario, right? They're fear-based.
Yes.
And so the minute they see something, they extrapolate out worst case scenario, and they operate from that, that worldview. And you have to realize that you can't change that. You can't.
Well, in the new worldview, since we're on that, is that now that there's such technology, right? Now we believe we can create anything and change anything, and that's the problem.
Right?
Is that they think that they can take some chemicals and sprinkle them in a cloud, and then, which they can, okay, which is true, and that is a fact. They can do that. But should they? Should you do that?
Well,
why are you trying
really
to
want to get into some scary stuff? Is what I wrote about in my book. The geeks,
yes.
They see humanity as the weak link. In other words, they see how frail humanity is when compared to nature. So we're venturing into an era of what we call transhumanism.
Yes.
Transhumanism is where these geeks believe they are going to improve humanity by re-editing our genes, using technology to augment our bodies.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. It's a real sci-fi. It's the real
sci-fi. It's kind of like if you watch Star Trek, it's the Borg.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've heard the word cyborg so much in the last week.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's really coming to center. People are really talking about that. They really think so. I mean, they're getting ready to make a civilization on Mars, right? So,
well, as I tried to explain, when my book came out last year, people were sort of rolling their eyes at what I was talking about, and then COVID hit. And well, I never predicted that COVID would hit, but what COVID's doing, interestingly enough, is it's the accelerator to all the things I wrote in my book. I was reading last night, because of COVID, the Japanese are automating everything. Robots, like what's happened is the acceleration of technology and robotics is hitting hyperspeed right now.
Yes, it is.
We have nursing robots now. We have robots that they're rolling into hospitals to keep the nurses away from the COVID patients, right? Yeah. So what's interesting is now is we're, everything's moving towards automation because humans are weak. We're susceptible to disease. Robots aren't.
No.
Right. So it's this cause and effect sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Right. So think about that. Like right now, this dilemma that we're all in about this pandemic, they think that's going to be a solution to a pandemic. See, people, can you see?
So
I don't know. I think people are in the dark. They don't know. And that's the problem. People, there's so much information out there. How do you disseminate the right information? How do you get to the right information is the question. That is a problem. And I know there's other
question that we got to really ask. And this is the way at least I should say, this is the way I operate. I go one step further.
Yes.
Meaning that one of the questions, and this would be how Jesus would react to certain things. What is the nature of the thing?
What is the nature of the thing?
Whether it's, whatever. In other words, you have to ask, why does that person have that perspective? See, we get caught up in what they say, but there's a reason why they have that worldview. And if you can't get to that why question.
Yes. I'm a context person. Like when I was taking theology, that was very important to me. And that's why I'll pull a scripture out every once in a while and, as a positive affirmation kind of, but I'm not going to use it for anything dogmatic. I'm not going to use it for anything because it's in context of what was going on in the world at that time with that community, and again, I feel like people take all those things out of context a lot. So you have to read the whole thing to get the context. And my personal thing, and I don't know why I just jumped onto this, but when I'm reading the Bible, I'm asking God to intercede in my thoughts and in my meditation during it. So he can help me understand what he wants me to understand reading it. So there's a different element in there going, okay, I understand it was in that time and that place and those people, but God, what is it? What's the lesson that you want me to learn in that? And I think that's what we need to ask ourselves right now in this time, in this place. God, what is it that you're wanting me to do and learn in this season with what's going on?
So here's the positive side of what's going on. The positive side of this is that we have a tendency as human beings to default.
Yeah.
We don't, it's another thing I wrote about. Since the garden, where it was on display, we have this tendency to default. We either blame other people or we want other people to make decisions for us. What's so interesting about the last year is because of the fact that we're so polarized and people have such very different perspectives, and we have dueling facts, right? That what it's forcing us all to do is actually do our own research, to actually take personal responsibility. So there's some actually positive things even in the, and even though there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, it's actually forcing us to be more responsible about our choices and asking our so people are asking very serious questions about their own lives, who they are, what their value. You see what I mean? It's like, even in the religious world, you get into that world and people tend to default to whatever the pastor says.
Yeah.
Why, and I found this through the years, as I drill down with people, why do you have that perspective? Right. Well, you find out it wasn't because they actually did the research. They're just an echo of some leader. Right. And so we're in a situation right now where our echoes are, are bouncing off the walls to the point where we're all putting our hands over our ears going, stop the madness.
Yes.
And then you see people starting to check out, right? It's just like, I'm in this echo chamber of competing echoes. and I'm like, you guys are going to make me schizophrenic. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? And so people then, that's where you see the isolation tendency. It's like you want to back out, right? But at the same time, then people are like, okay, well, what do I believe?
Right. And if all they're doing is regurgitating information that they hear, yeah, what is it you believe? Do you really believe that? What is it that's inner? I mean, it's all coming to you outwardly, not inwardly. So how do you gain that inner voice?
Crisis reveals character.
Oh yes.
Right.
Oh yes.
And what I mean by character is your values.
Right.
What ends up happening is in the midst of crisis, a lot of the facade gets stripped away. You know what I mean? A lot of the pretense gets stripped away, and you're sort of, that's why if any of you have ever read Viktor Frankl,
yes,
he's a deep thinker, and the reason he's a deep thinker is because he was in Auschwitz.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And he saw human beings stripped down to their bare human essence, and what was at stake was life. I mean, you can't get much more raw than being in a concentration camp or a death camp, right? Yeah. And so a lot of his observations about humanity was seeing it stripped down. And so, for all the downside of COVID, I think there's been incredible opportunity.
Yeah, it's brought us through lots of emotion. First being fear, then anxiety, then it's brought us through all those things, and it did set us apart from one another as far as what our thoughts and our values were. I think we've recognized that pretty quickly. And as long as you didn't get pulled into the conspiracy holes, you could stay a little steady. And as long as you didn't get over saturated in media, you could stay steady. But if you started listening to all the outwardly, chatter, that's where it gets dangerous for you. And that's where you have to decide, you have to control your environment, where you're at, who the five are, the influence of the five, who are you, communicating with, and what are their beliefs. And when this first started, I was around a lot of people that opposed my own, my own thoughts on the whole thing, and it's okay. And it was okay because, and that's where you have to go. Is it okay for them to have opposing views and thoughts? Well, as long as it wasn't built in fear and anxiety, I was okay with that, to listen to why they felt this way, what was etc. And I didn't know. And apparently we still don't know, but back then we didn't know even more. And I would go, okay, well, I'll follow along these guidelines because that's who the medical people are in charge of our country are telling us to do. So I'm going to do that because that's what they're suggesting we do. And then going from there. And I mean, we've had a whole year to think about this. We've had a whole year to understand maybe what happened, what didn't happen, etc. So at the end of it, you just have to be logical and you just have to be practical and not jumping to all these different conclusions of, is it right? Is it wrong? What I do, sanitize my hands, put a mask on when I go out because that's what they say I have to do. And keep it moving. And still communicate with people, still reach out to people, still help people. That's it. It's kind of like, so I'm not going to get polarized about, the politics behind it or not behind it, or, what this is or that is. I'm just going to try to be conscientious, be respectful. Like, I think, and this is me personally, I think it's respectful to wear a mask because they ask me to. I'm going to still follow that. I am, just because they ask me to in a place. If they don't ask me to in a place, then maybe I won't, you know what I'm saying? Like,
one thing we have to
make
realize.
The logical decision, and I don't need to be polarized on one side or the other. I just need to make that decision, situation by situation. So just be nice to one another, and don't worry about all that, and wash your hands, and I hope you don't get COVID, and that's it. I mean, that's the way I stand, and that's where I stood from the very beginning. It's kind of like I didn't change my position and my thoughts on it. But I'm going to make decisions in my own life, but I'm not going to judge you how you make your decisions in your life. I'm not going to judge you, but if you need my help and my support, I'll be there for you, but I'm not going to judge you on it. I'm not going to sit here and go, you should, you shouldn't. Now, if with wisdom, and you have a lot of wisdom, Bob, in wisdom, I listen to you every week, and I gain something from that. And I go, yes, I agree with that. Or, sometimes I don't agree with whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm learning, and that's what it is. Every day we need to be learning. We need to be listening and learning from one another, and gaining something, but at the same time, have our own thoughts, and listening to how God's going to guide you in this. What is he saying about this? That's my thing. Where's God's voice in all of this? What is he saying?
Well, one of the things, what I was going to try to say was that one of the things you got to understand is there's certain default settings that are historical, meaning they've always been there. So here's historical reality. Since the beginning of time, there's always been a few that have wanted to control the many. So a lot of what you're seeing right now, that's nothing new under the sun.
It's
always been there.
Yes.
So you're never going to stop the few, the elite few trying to control me. Like it, years ago, a few years back, they were always talking about the 99% and the 1%.
Yes.
And I was laughing because it was like, really? I mean, that's been there since the beginning of time. We've always had the 1% control the 99%. It's like nothing new here.
Just like at church.
The question isn't, you're not going to change that. That's just human nature. The question is, how do you react to it?
How do you react to it?
If you don't want to be controlled by the 1%, then what choices are you making?
Yes.
To not be.
Yes.
Right. So what happens is we like to complain a lot. We like to sit and moan and groan and, it's not, I can't believe they're doing it. But the question really is, well, what are you doing about it?
But how much control do you have over doing something about it?
Oh, you have lots of control. And it's all based on your
That's the question
choices.
Is people feel helpless sometimes in that. And going, but what I do isn't going to change anything, because that's what they tell themselves.
They haven't actually explored the options.
Yes. And Larry, I agree with you. The values and the virtues of our founders. I agree with that.
Well, again, our founders, see, this is, I posted something last week from a congressman from Maine who basically tried to explain to people back in the 1800s that you can't legislate out evil.
That's a great line. You can't legislate. I got to write that down.
Well, no, let me see if I can. Let me go back and see if I can find the actual quote on my.
You can't legislate
because it's quite
true.
enlightening.
That is true. But that's right. That's where the light has to come in. That's where the light has to be. So what is your light that you're sharing? What is your light that you're spreading? What is the light that you're putting on something? Sometimes we can be an influence.
Here's the quote. One of the greatest illusions in the world is the hope that the evils in this world are to be cured by legislation. So the reason I bring this up is, again, reality check here, folks. Politics isn't going to solve our problems.
Please send that to me.
What's on my Facebook page? You just got to scroll down.
I love it.
Yeah. So
no, that's right.
One of the things. That's just why I keep talking about getting to the nature of things, right?
Nature, our human nature.
Understood. Right. This problem. Well, here's what's interesting. Washington understood this. John Adams understood this. Right. My ancestor, Dr. Benjamin Rush, understood this. Almost all of our founding fathers understood that without the morals, values, and ethics taught by Jesus, democracy cannot work.
Right.
So Larry is right in one sense, but it's not American values. It's values of the kingdom of God. It goes even deeper
values
than
of the kingdom of God.
right?
Yes.
In other words, the founding fathers borrowed their, so you can say they're American, but they're not really American. They're way beyond that. They saw certain values, right? And so, but they understood that without the transformation of the human soul, right? That democracy wouldn't work. So this is again another. This is where, if you want to get into controversy, one of the worldview collisions right now that we have is we have a whole group of people that think the solution to solving all our problems is institutional. Right. We make better rules.
Yes.
And we create more institutions and we police people's behavior.
Right.
Jesus operated on a completely different worldview, and what I'm talking about is seen all the way through the Gospels, because in Jesus' time, those police were religious. They wore religious garbs.
They were They were
belonged to the Sanhedrin. Right.
Yep.
And Jesus basically called them whitewashed tombs. Basically, you're a bunch of people whose hearts are so corrupt, but you put on all of this religious garb to make yourself look good. But the truth, right? And so, what are we seeing now? And there's things happening, and I'm trying not to be political here, but there's things happening where we're seeing organizations implode, right?
Yes.
So I'm just going to go there. So BLM right now, right, which has been the darling of the left all summer long, is imploding. Why? Because they got money. Millions of dollars came in. So now what's happening? They're tearing each other up, all scrambling for the money.
Wow. I guess I haven't read that lately. I stay away from that stuff. So something's happening in their organization. I didn't know that.
They're at each other's throats over the money. And so where I'm getting at this is every time we get, whether you're on the left, whether you're on the right, it all ends up coming apart because of our character and our morals and our ethics and values. And that's why Jesus Jesus never focused on taking down the Roman government. He never tried to change legislation. He never He kept saying, I need to change people.
Yeah. Yes.
And so this is where, I'm not advocating.
Well, even Pilate didn't want to crucify him. I mean, even Pilate saw his sincerity. He didn't want to.
Advocating, I'm not advocating abdication, right? You're not to disengage. What I'm trying to get people to understand is that you're putting Band-Aids on a hemorrhage.
Yeah.
We have a cultural hemorrhage going on right now, but it's our character that is what's at the root of this.
Right.
Well, here's your dilemma. Government cannot solve that problem.
No.
And that's what the founding fathers understood. Legislation, rule, right? And so what you're seeing is you're seeing people in Washington trying to throw rules.
Yes.
At everyone to control it, right? Because in their worldview, the more rules we have, the more we'll be able to control human behavior. And what you discover is you can't. It doesn't work. It never has.
No, I mean, think about the Jewish people and who ruled over them over many, many times. And of course, as if basic Bible knowledge, the Egyptians did during Moses's time, then the Romans during Jesus's time. So other governments came in and ruled over, and they didn't. The Israelites did not follow that government's religious beliefs or or even agree with them. They were enslaved by them most of the time. So
we even have it here in the United States. There's a story, some of you may be aware of it, but in the 1920s, preachers like Billy Sunday, Belton, Missouri's Carrie Nation, all these people believed that the great evil in America was alcohol, that alcohol was the problem, right? And so they decided to press the federal government to outlaw the sale of alcohol. And we went into what we call prohibition.
Yeah.
So did prohibition and the laws stop the sale of alcohol?
Yeah.
No. What it actually created was the mafia. Because up to that point, the mafia was a small, had these small things, but when they created opportunity for evil. And the mafia grew exponentially in the 1930s because of alcohol sales.
Yeah.
So, this is my point is that it's, you could put all these rules, whether it's racism, alcoholism, all the isms that are out there, making more rules
isn't gonna
cure the problem.
It isn't.
Because the problem is the state of the human soul.
Is the state of our community, the state of the people. What are you looking to?
Fruit, not a root.
Right. Yeah.
In other words, what you're seeing now,
morning, Jody,
all the things that we're talking about, these aren't roots, these are fruits.
Right.
These are the results of something. And what people aren't asking is, well, how did we get here? Where did we go? You see what I mean? And that's part of the reason why nothing gets fixed. You know what I mean? Because we don't actually get down to the root issues, and our political system isn't going to solve that.
Right. My sister's chiming in here, and she sent me a text because she's not on Facebook. So she said, Daniel clearly states that Lucifer will reign the earth and saints will be slain during the last 42 months after Jerusalem is occupied. We who follow Jesus will be martyred. Pretty simple. There's no stopping prophecy. Politics have no importance in this. Well, I hope we're not in the last 42 months. Maybe we are. I don't know.
Right.
There's the other little thing. And it's not little. So that's it. We and Larry said it earlier. He said, daily meditate. He put up Joshua 1:8. Don't let the book of the law depart from your mouth, but meditate it on day and night. Now, that was in the Old Testament, right? So there was a time when law, when Jesus came, then there wasn't, law. And that's a whole nother discussion.
People misunderstand. The reason Jesus came back was to put the heart back in the law. In other words, what happened, which is typically happens, is that the reason that the law was put in the first place was because of wisdom.
Yes.
Right. In other words, what's happened is all of that was lost its contextualization.
Yes.
In other words, the reason why these laws came into place was for the benefit of humanity, right? In other words, there was a heart behind this. There was wisdom. And by following this certain things, our culture would be more wholesome and function better. What ended up happening was religion disconnected that from the heart, right? And it became ritual.
It became convicting.
Yeah, but it became a ritual. It didn't have a heart in it. And then Jesus came back and went, let me explain. I'm going to reveal the Father to you. The person, the God that gave you this, there was a reason behind this, and there's a heart behind this. And that's why I keep saying you got to get back to the heart. That's what Jesus, there's motive, that what's behind all this. And so what I watch right now, the question I keep asking continually, even when I'm, whether it's on the business sector, religious sector, political sector, I go, what's your motive? Like, what's driving this? Why are you saying that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Because if you can't answer those questions, then you don't really know where this is coming from.
Yeah, well, right. If you're tossed to and fro, like they say, if you don't, if you don't stand for anything, you fall for everything. So it comes back to those little cliches. They sound little, but they're not. You have to know what's in here. You have to know what you believe in. You have to know and how to get that connection back. If you lost that connection, how do you get that connection back? Why is that important? Why is the kingdom of God? Why is God important to have a connection with? You need to ask
the question, what about the separation of church and state? And we're not talking about what we're talking about.
Yeah, we don't.
Democracy.
They don't follow each other.
Form of government, right? In other words, citizens vote. So what government is, it's a reflection of the morals, values, and ethics of those citizens. Yes. So what the founding fathers realize is in order to have a better government, we need to have better citizens to make better choices.
Right.
You see what I mean? So we can do, this is part of the problem right now is in our lifetime, what's happened is our government's become so centralized in Washington, right? And so there's like this disconnect. Well, it's those guys over there. And yeah, at the same time, we're the ones that pick these people. Like, we're the ones that put them in power.
Right.
It's, in other words, these are our choices. Nobody else made these decisions. No, this isn't a monarchy where it was,
So if you believe that guy that sold you, that he would do all these things for you and you bought it and you believe him, and now he's not doing what you need him to do, then it's time for you to vote him out. And you voted him in.
Say to me all the time, son, decisions have consequences.
Yes. I like
the separation of church and state. Yeah. We're not talking about a religious government. What we're talking about, well, we are in the big picture, yes, because the government is the people, actually. See, that's what's happened in our culture is we see the government as those guys in Washington.
Yes.
Because we have a representative. So we choose these people and then they go make decisions for us in Washington. But ultimately, it was still our choice. We picked them.
Right. Yes, we did.
So we're living with the decisions,
the
consequences of our decisions.
That's right. Thank you, Larry. I do like this. This is one of my favorite scriptures, actually. And I hold on to this scripture. And that this one is central to me personally. Do not be discouraged, do not be afraid, be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And that is where, if that's your spiritual view, that's your root, that's your values, that everything that's happening, outside of that, you just have to know how to navigate that, have wisdom and the ways to navigate through all of this that's going on. But if that's your central, you'll be pretty sturdy, I think. I think if we hold on to that, right. and that's it. Is what you believe in your faith is what's going to be the key to this. If you're going to be, of course it's natural to be scared and fearful sometimes. And it's natural, it's our human nature. Like we're talking about our human nature, the human condition is we're going to go through these emotions. But if you don't know how to control those emotions and you don't know where to look to gain insight and stability, then that's where you're going to be hurting right now. So, that's why
the reality of it is there's a whole lot of things we can't control.
No, we can control who we vote for, but can we?
No, but I'm just saying in life.
We can't control the person that we even voted for. We can't
control somebody's decision in their bad driving. You can't.
Oh yeah.
You see what I mean? There's all these things we face. I mean, if you actually stop and thought about how little we can and how other people can impact our lives.
Yes.
Our friend Dr. B, I spent an hour on the phone with him yesterday. He's probably had 50 people in the last year die in his world because of COVID and all these different things, right? And and he was overwhelmed because you can't control any of it.
Yes.
You're losing people, right? So what can, and so these are why you go through these crises and you stop and you like take stock of your life and go, okay, well, there's, you can make a list. I can't control this, but I can control this. So what, you know what I mean?
Yes. So Desma, I like what Desma had said. Thank you for sharing that, Desma. And it's true. We have to sit by the choices, we make. I mean, it's right.
But this is the remember, this has been the dilemma since the beginning of time. When God showed up in the garden, it wasn't Adam's fault. It wasn't Eve's fault. It was that damn serpent. You know what I mean?
Dang snake.
It's been a problem since the beginning of time, is taking
right.
responsibility.
Exactly.
So, where we are in the United States right now.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Us. Nobody else, no Martians came here.
Well, Larry is asking where we are.
Oh yeah, well, Larry's down in Springfield there.
Larry's in Springfield. We're in Kansas City.
Exactly. But you see what I'm getting at? It's like it's always their problem.
Oh, so Jody has a good question. Of course, it's going to be we're getting ready to jump off here in a minute, but
that's a whole nother question.
So how do you think? Yeah, and 10% control 80% of the wealth. I mean, it was happening back then in his time.
I was going to say there's nothing new. 1%
nothing new. It was happening in his time. You know what he thought? He ran into the synagogue, saw that they were doing that.
What did Jesus do?
He overturned the tables.
No, what he did was with all the rich people, what did he do? He challenged their motive, their heart, right? He told the rich young ruler to sell everything. And the reason why is because he knew that the rich young ruler, his wealth was his identity, his sense of self.
Right.
And it's a heart, right? So, but again, the difference is it was still a personal choice. What we're facing in our culture is some people want to go take it away from the others. Jesus would have never operated that way. He would have convicted them, and then they would have made their own choice. And I could tell story after story of people over the centuries who have done just that. What always happens, and I was talking to this with a friend the other day, right? What always happens when there's a move of God is it starts with a revelation. Yes. What happens is the Holy Spirit shows up and he opens the eyes of our heart and we realize how unbelievably self-centered and evil we really are.
Yeah.
We see the darkness in our soul.
Yes.
That causes us to weep. Like we have this revelation of, oh my God, look at who I really am. That then causes us to cry out. And it leads to what the church calls repentance, right? Which is we change our way. We change directions. We change the way, right? So almost all of the social change that's ever happened in the world started with a change in the human soul.
Repentance. And people take
repentance is the outworking, right? It starts with conviction.
Yeah, the conviction, like, okay, I'm not doing this right. What's going on?
Right now. In other words, we got to face who we really are.
Well, there's the thing, though, is that there are a lot of people out there that don't know why. I mean, they don't have that foundation. They're not around God-fearing people. They're not around people who follow Jesus or God, and they don't even know about him, and that's where we come in as to trying to, show the light and teach why we feel the way we feel and why our conviction and our foundation is the way it is. That's where it comes from. So it is our part. That's our part.
Well, what the Christian community hasn't done real well is
because they do it with hypocrisy. Yeah.
Well, no, we haven't explained to those outside of our community the wisdom of our morals, values, and ethics. We don't have good apologists now that are explaining that this isn't some God who's trying to take away all your fun.
Yes.
There's wisdom behind this. There's decisions have consequences, and these morals, values, and so I sit there and I watch humanity flail, right, as it tries to fix all these problems and going, you guys, the answer's been there for a really long time. The God of creation, the author of life, has given us the keys to solve all of this, and because of the fact you refuse to humble yourself. We're in this mess. So it's not like the answers aren't there.
Right. And then because they've turned it into a religion and versus a faith, they've turned it into a religion, and the hypocrisy that people see from outwardly is why people don't follow it, is because they're going, well, you're saying this, but I see you doing this over here, And
well,
so
we are way past our.
I know, and we yes, our light, fluffy conversation.
I know. I was like, keep it light on Monday, okay, Sandy.
Okay, Sandy. Today she's like, oh, I missed you, Bob. Let's talk. Let us go.
Oh gosh, let's turn over all these rocks and see what's.
See how I missed you?
Well, I hope we haven't turned everyone off by our dialogue.
No, we kept more viewers on today than we have in a while. So I'm just saying it must have been good. So not too controversial. We do have Fred and Grace Holmes on our Thursday nights.
Okay, cool.
This Thursday night, they're our guests, and they're doctors. They were medical missionaries. Amazing story about their lives. Love these people. So I can't wait for you guys to meet them. And so they'll be on Thursday night. And they have lots of cool stories. So anyway, I will see you then. And thank you, Bob, so much. And I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm glad.
No, I'm not.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I hope you feel better later. Okay. Okay. See, there you go. Bye, guys.